Chapter 4. Psychic Narrations. My friends, it is urgent to learn how to travel in the fourth dimension. Many will find such learning difficult, but it is not really so intricate. What are needed is willpower, indefatigable tenacity, and infinite patience. There comes to my memory at this instant some very important episodes related to the jinn state. When I began my learning, I certainly had to suffer a little. I was peacefully in bed with my head resting on my left palm. I concentrated in my Mother Nature and in the Christ, asking with all my heart to be taken in my physical body to remote places on earth. When I already was in a certain state of lassitude, when I was beginning to feel drowsy, I softly left my bed and went out into the yard of the house. There I gave long jumps with the intention of floating into space. Many times it was raining and then I had to endure the water and the cold. Dressed in my night clothes, and when I saw that I was not floating, I returned to bed to repeat this experiment over and over again unceasingly during the night. My sleeplessness was immense, my body was losing weight, my face was pallid and my eyes surrounded by dark shadows, but I was stubborn and one day I was successful. In a state of drowsiness I got up from my bed, and huge was my astonishment upon finding 3 ladies inside my chamber. One of them helped me get out of bed, while the other 2 sitting at a table drew lots with some cards, to see which of them would take charge of my insignificant person. It was clear that the luck fell on the one who lifted me from my bed. She helped me leave the room, and led me along a corridor that led to the street, opened the hall door of the house and took me out to the street. I then saw many other people that were also engaged in the same kind of work in that town, where they lived at the present moment. The lady told me that I could float in the atmosphere, and upon doing this I felt a great happiness. I will admit that there was a certain lack of wisdom in my acts, because I, full of happiness, embarked upon the clouds, or threw myself towards the earth in order to fly over the houses, the towers of the churches, etc., etc. 1. And nobody saw you? Oh. Distinguished lady, I say to you that nobody saw me, because my body had entered the fourth dimension. I had escaped from the world of 3 dimensions, and for that reason it had become invisible for the people of this world. The lady led me to New York. There was a gentleman that was also working in the same way. That woman helped him also and took him out from his apartment, so that there were already 2 travelers of the fourth dimension. We crossed the Atlantic Ocean and we then flew on to Europe, going by different cities in ruins, because we were in the Second World War. That man told me, I don't know what I see in you, but the only thing I know is that inside you there is much philosophy and occultism. The gentleman warned me of the dangers that existed in the lands from Europe. He told me that we have to have much care, because if we came to leave the fourth vertical, we would fall in those countries without documentation of any kind, for which they would kill us or put us in jail. You are right, I answered. In no way we should abandon the fourth coordinate. During the trip we stopped for a while in order to enter a dressmaker's house. The lady that drove us manifested the desire to help some people that lived there. In the meantime we remained inside a contiguous room, chatting. When we left that house with our guide, we continued floating on the European sky in order to arrive at the place where we wanted to go. Once completed the required investigations, I said goodbye to my guide and to my friend and returned home. You can already see, distinguished friends, how with will and patience one is able to learn how to put the physical body inside the fourth dimension. To me this represented a whole year of bitterness. 2. How did the guide know that in that house that you mention help was needed? And what type of help? With the greatest pleasure I will respond to your question, dear lady. It is clear that the people that lived in such a house were friends of the guide. The help given by the lady that guided us was related to the jinn studies. It had as purpose to help a person to enter in the fourth dimension, that is all. 3. How long were you making that trip? Well, distinguished lady, I consider that in coming and going it could have lapsed a pair of hours. For, how did you know how to return on your own? This question is very interesting and gives an opportunity for a beautiful explanation. It happens that in the world of the fourth dimension everything returns to its original starting point. If we open a door, this closes immediately by itself. If we took an object from one place to another, it returns by itself to its place. For example, in certain occasion I left the house by the fourth dimension. I located myself exactly at a street in the distance, and I then took off my nightshirt. I threw it into space and observed carefully the course that the shirt followed. I then saw with astonishment that floating in the atmosphere the object returned home, entered by the door and ended up on the bed. Therefore, it is not strange that I was overtaken by this returning force to go back in an instinctive and automatic manner to the bedroom until my body was placed in the position in which it was before. 5. In a snowy region from South America, a man that looked after livestock, being tired, stopped at a solitary cabin accompanied by his dog. He lit a fire in order to be more comfortable. At midnight he felt strange noises and heard the dog bark as if an unknown person were approaching. Upon observing what happened, I saw a man covered with hair. Without any clothes, he took his rifle in order to attack the visitor, who said, "My friend, don't attack me, don't hurt me, that I come in peace," telling him how he had reached that state by making a promise many years before to live far from civilization and not allow any woman to see him. The cattleman offered him food and a roof in the cabin and indicated that he lived in a country property where women don't live, that when he wanted he could go over there in order to chat with him and eat what he wanted. One day, the hairy man visited him in the country property and, while chatting with him, he observed that some ladies from that place were looking at him, fleeing then without ever returning. "Could you explain us, Master, why did he make this resolution to live in the solitude and far from women?" With the greatest pleasure I will respond to your question, distinguished gentleman. I find your story very interesting. Certainly the case of the hairy man is very lamentable. In all of this I see a little ignorance. I find it too absurd, escaping from women, because it would be impossible to achieve liberation, salvation, since they are an important element in life. Love is the foundation of liberation, of salvation, of illumination. Only by loving we can reach God, only by truly loving we can reach the eternal blessedness. We have written many works and it is worthwhile that our readers study them. The Perfect Matrimony, for example, is one of those books that could teach to the people what love is. There are some other important texts, for example, The Mystery of the Golden Blossom, Parsifal Unveiled, and many others. There is not doubt that the hairy man became an authentic savage. In contact with nature he sprouted the skin of an ape man, involuted until he was converted in an ape, that is all. 6. At the time of the colony, two gentlemen that rode toward the city in a rainy day, trying to rest and shelter from the rain, they saw a tavern in which it seemed that there was a party, because those that were there danced, drank and laughed. They entered and also stayed to take part in the party. Upon feeling tired, they retired to their room to sleep. The next day, when they woke up, their surprise was huge when they saw that in that place there was only old, ancient dust and skeletons spread around the whole house. Frightened, they escaped from there panic-stricken. Could you tell me what was the cause of this phenomenon? Interesting story, distinguished gentleman. There is here a marvelous phenomenon of the fourth dimension. There is not doubt that those travelers had momentary access to the fourth dimension in which they could see and hear many discarnate people, deceased say, with which they passed the time in a friendly way. The next day they received a surprise upon discovering in such tavern only the bones of the dead. 7. A Bohemian that was accustomed to live in the taverns, one day upon leaving from a tavern in order to go to his house, felt a strange noise that came behind him. Upon looking back, he saw a human figure without a head that followed him at a certain distance. The man began to run shouting, with which people came out of their houses to help him. Upon arriving near his house, he passed out. Hours later, when he woke up, he related to the people what had happened. Do you want to explain to me why did he see a man without a head? The gentleman talks to us about a decapitated person. Many people that perished in the guillotine during the French Revolution continued in the beyond, in the unknown dimension in the shape of beheaded human beings. It happens that those that have died that way sometimes are made visible in such a sinister figure in the physical world. My friends, it is good that you know that charmed lands exist, regions of the 1001 Nights, and that all that belongs to the fourth dimension. Nature has marvels and prodigies. I remember that in some of my trips that I took around lands from America I arrived at the house of a boy that was very sick. The crows, vultures, etc. stopped on the roof of that house. This was happening before the doctors predicted that the boy would die. What is astonishing is that such birds, that evidently are associated with the ray of Saturn, can guess with so much success and know with absolute accuracy the place where a creature was going to die, we can assert in fact that this boy died without the medical science having been able to save him. There is not doubt that that type of birds of the sky completes a beautiful mission, cleaning the nature of all decay. It is clear that they have powers that allow them to know the place where somebody is supposed to die. All this invites us to meditate on the powers of nature. We can all get in contact with the elementals and know the marvels and prodigies of nature if we learn how to travel in the fourth dimension. When the hour of death arrives, the angel entrusted with cutting the thread of existence joins the dying at his deathbed. At the precise instant in which we exhale the final breath, the angel of death takes the soul out of the body and cuts with his reed the silver cord, a certain mysterious thread, silvery, that connects the soul with the physical body. Such magnetic cord could lengthen or shorten until the infinite. A dream is said to be a tiny death. It is known that during a dream the soul is not inside the body, but that it travels to remote distances and then the silver thread lengthens infinitely. Thanks to such a thread the soul is able to return to the physical body in the moment of awakening after the dream. The moribund are accustomed to see the angel of death with his ghostly, skeletal figure, adorned with the funeral apparel. It is clear that this so sinister figure is only assumed when these angels are working. Outside of their work they assume beautiful figures, maybe of children, maybe of ladies or of venerable old men. The angels of death are never bad or perverse. They always work in accordance with the great law. Each one is born in his hour and dies exactly in his time. The souls of the dead recapitulate or review the life that has just passed in detailed form. This procedure is always carried out retrospectively. During such a process the souls retake their steps, live in those places where they lived before. They always repeat the same things, the same facts, the same events. When they come to revive the instance of their first childhood they seem like children. It is obvious that once they have reviewed their life as it happened, they come before the master of karma, before the tribunals of the law, ready to be judged. This is what it is called to come before the tribunals of God. From such a judgment, from such a verdict, follows the future of each soul. Some souls get on the celestial regions before returning to this world, others enter in the hellish worlds, located inside the interior of the earth, and others, finally, return either immediately or somewhat later to this valley of tears. This return to this world can be quite painful. Unfortunately, we always have to return. The angels of life connects the silver thread with the zoosperm that is going to be fecundated in a womb. The creature is in gestation in the womb, but the soul that returns only enters the body at the instant in which the baby makes the first inhalation of air. Understanding this is vital and indispensable. Therefore we, before this life that we have at this moment, had not only one past existence, but many others. Each one is born in accordance with their own destiny. Some are born in rich and very wealthy families, and others return amongst poor people and beggars. If we did well in our past existence, we pick up the prize now, we return to homes where nothing is lacking and we will have comforts of all kinds. If we did wrong, if we wasted money, if we were greedy, if we exploited our fellow men, if we made the error of stealing or of ruining another, if we made the wrong use of money, it is evident that it is our turn to return amongst miserable families, dressed with the bodies of beggars, unhappy, hungry and suffering malnutrition. So each one gets the fruit of their own actions. It is clear that people don't remember their past lives because they have the consciousness asleep. If people had an awakened consciousness, then it is obvious that they would remember all their previous existences. One should make an effort in doing works of charity, dress the nude, feed the hungry, give a drink to the thirsty, teach the ignorant, etc., 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 so that in their future return to the earth after death, they are born in beautiful homes, between people of good customs, with much abundance, peace and prosperity. 1. Do angels of life and angels of death exist? With the greatest pleasure I will respond to your question. The angels of death are present at the beds of the dying and live normally in the fifth dimension, in the astral world of which we are told by the esotericism and the occultism. The angels of life have bodies of children, they know much of occult medicine, they have power over the waters of existence, over the womb, over the amniotic liquid, over the creative organs, and they live normally in the fourth dimension, in the etheric world. There is not doubt that the angels of life work with the women during childbirth. They could open every womb and help in every birth. They are accustomed to be extraordinary doctors. Really, they are those entrusted with connecting the thread of life with the fecundated zoosperm. They are the agent secrets that help all women that are giving birth. Then, in accordance with what you explained to us, does predestination exist, and is one able to change it? Distinguished lady, we are going to give an answer to such question. It is clear that predestination exists. Really, this is the result of all the good and bad actions of our past existences. If one steals, they will steal from you, if one kills, they will kill you, etc., etc., etc. For example, I am now going to narrate to you now a very interesting case. It happened that a youth and 3 companions friends left for a trip from Mexico toward the United States. But they had a tragic event. The car in which they traveled hit another, and there were counterblows with other vehicles that also circulated for the highway, with a balance of 2 dead and 2 wounded. When we investigated in the superior worlds, we found evidence to what is the law of the predestination. For one of the dead, the first of them, his death was instantaneous, he perished in the precise moment of the clash. Another suffered burns of 3rd degree and after 20 days exhaled his last breath. The third was the driver of the car, which had a dislocation of the arm and a small wound in a leg only. And another, the fourth, suffered just a light wound in the head. We investigated especially to the first 3, and the result was the following. The person who perished first had lived in Mexico during the time of Don Porfirio Diaz. It is clear that it had been a rich, powerful person, a great farmer tyrant, that enjoyed running over the hard-working poor, tossing the horses on the peasants in the roads, etc., etc. The person who died from serious burns had made the error of tossing gasoline on the bodies of his siblings when they slept at night and then set them on fire. The one had been his very serious crime in his past existence and now perished in a car set on fire and died with burns of 3rd degree. As for the third one, he had made a youth suffer in his past existence. It so happened that in a gang of boys they had hit him and had dislocated an arm, pulling it violently. Now he received the consequence during the accident. Therefore, each one is born with their own destiny. The destiny could be modified doing many works of charity, being devoted to the good, practicing the works of mercy, etc., etc. It should remain clear the concrete fact that destiny could also be modified, because when an inferior law is transcended by a superior law, the law superior washes out the inferior law. Do good work so that you pay your debts.